Welcome back to video 5 of the Gallery Models 1/200 scale Yamato build. Sorry about my voice. I've been sick this week with some sinus congestion, so sorry for sounding like a frog. We're going to get into weathering the ship now. You've seen the port side already done. We're going to replicate what we did on that side over here, and I'm going to show you how I did it. But first I wanted to show you my setup real quick. Over here I've got the brushes. This one is going to be for thinner only, and I've got 3 blenders. One for stippling, a pointed one for blending, and then the flat one for I usually use that one for streaking. And then I've got some others for the different color applications. This is a number 2 round Master Touch, I think, from Hobby Lobby. My oil palette, I went ahead and made this yesterday because I had planned on starting yesterday but didn't get around to it. As you can see, it's a lot of the linseed oil has been soaked up, which is good. It's going to help the paint dry faster and make this go a little bit quicker. If you keep this in the freezer, then it'll be good for a month. Just add some white mineral spirits, which is what I have here in this cup. It wakes it up and you can keep working with it for quite a while actually. And then I just have some paper towels over here for testing different paint thicknesses and whatnot. You'll see me doing that. This is oil paint rendering. This is something that I've been learning from Mike Rinaldi. He's got a YouTube channel, Rinaldi Studio Press. I'll go ahead and put that link in the description of this video below. He's the master that kind of teaches this technique. So it's not me. I'm just showing you what I've learned from him and how I'm applying it to a ship. He does more armor and aircraft and mech, and so all I'm doing is I'm taking that OPR technique and I'm applying it to a naval subject. That's really all I'm doing. So with that said, I'm going to reposition the camera so you can see here a little bit, because as you can see, that this part of the hull, it curves, comes up and then it curves out and it creates a shadow, so you can't really see what I'm doing up here. So I'll go ahead and reposition the camera so you can see that. But yeah, just give me back in a minute. Alright guys, here we are. We're going to get started. I think this is a little bit better angle, a little bit closer in so you can see what I'm going to do here. Part of this process is working in small sections, and what we'll do is we'll probably focus on the front of the bow to right about here and kind of work this section right here. We're going to work from light colors to dark colors and then add some other effects like rust and whatnot. And once this is done, then what we'll do is we'll move over and do this other smaller section. Since now that we've done this, we have the roadmap to do this and then keep working it, as we go along the side of the hull. The good thing about working with these oil paints is that it's extremely forgiving. If you make a mistake, you add too much, you can simply get some odorless mineral spirits and then come back and wipe it away clean. And then even after it's been several days, you can still go back and remove it. So what we'll do is we're just going to take a clean brush, load it up with some thinner, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work in this section that we're going to start with from here, and I'm just going to wet the surface down with the thinner. I don't have a varnish down or anything. There's no clear coat on this. This is directly on top of the acrylic paint, and what that's going to allow us to do is actually shift the tonal variations of the actual paint. There's oils and the oil paint is going to interact with the acrylics. It's going to turn out pretty nice. So what we'll do is we'll just start on this gray section, this upper part of the hull, and we're just going to wet it down with some thinner. What this is going to do is reduce the surface tension so our paints move a little easier. Next, I'm just going to take another clean brush, and we're going to start with the light colors and work our way up. This is our opportunity to tell the story of this subject. This ship, about 4 years of active service during World War II. I'll put some reference pictures up. These ships got extremely dirty rather quickly. One in particular I remember seeing was from 1942, and it's like from this whole front section, the whole back section was completely dark with staining and streaking and whatever. So what we want to do is take into account too the curvature that we're working with here. From about here down to about here probably didn't get a whole lot of sunlight, at least during the day. Obviously, early in the morning, late in the evening, it would get some sunlight here, but for the most part, this paint was probably not as faded as it was down here or back toward the midsection where the surface was exposed to the sun quite a bit more. So what we want to do at first is maybe start in right here with some lighter colors, and that's going to kind of force the perspective that this is a little bit more faded than it is up here. So what I'm going to do is I've been just kind of wetting this brush a little bit with some thinner, and I'm going to use I think this is faded white. And we'll come in here and we'll just maybe add a little bit right along here on this panel line, like that. And then we'll come in with the blender, and this is a dry brush, and I'll just kind of feather this in a little bit like this. Like I said, this brush is completely dry. All the movement of the paint is only because of the thinner that's on the surface and the thinner that I just put in the paint, which is not a lot. There we go. Maybe I'll come back in with the stippler. I gotta put a hand on it, it's gonna start to shake. And we'll just stipple this through. Just going to blend it in. There we go. Well, let's see, maybe we'll add a little bit more paint right through here. There we go. You don't have to be precise with the paint application for something like this. Later on with the darker colors, I will be using a little bit more precision, but I'll show you that when we get to that stage. So now we're just going to stipple this in. And if you find that the paint isn't moving around as well as you would like it to, that's because some of the thinner on the surface is starting to evaporate. And all you got to do is just get just the tiniest little bit on your brush, unload it so it's practically dry, and there, you see that? It's starting to move that paint a little bit better now. Okay, that's stippled in. I'm going to switch back to my pointed brush and I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit. There we go. Another tool to use during this process is a hair dryer. So pardon the noise, but I'm going to put a hairdryer on this, and we'll dry out that paint. We'll see what it looks like. There we go. Now we can clearly see that we've created a fade effect here on this paint. And what I want to do is I think I want to carry that up just a little bit more right through here. So I'm going to add a little bit of thinner. Come in with a little bit more of that faded white. Like that. I don't want to go too heavy because we're trying to blend it to no paint in this area right here. And we'll go ahead and stipple that in, working it up. And we'll just blend it across. Just like that. Smooth it out. Again, I'm working vertically here. There we go. Hit it with the hairdryer. There we go. Now we have a nice gradient from some fresher looking paint down into some more a bit faded paint. Cool. That's a really good start, I think. Alright, now I'm going to add the second layer. And again, before I do, I'm just going to wet the surface with the thinner. And since this has already had time to dry, I'm not going to be removing it or anything like that by putting thinner down over on top of it. It's locked in place. Doesn't need to be soaking wet, but just want to make sure it's a nice even coat. There we go. Now the next thing I'm doing is I'm taking a little light gray, and I'm going to use a toothpick, and I'm going to get a real wet application of this. See it on the paper towel there. And what I'm going to do is we're just going to do some speckling here. What this is going to do is create an element of randomness to the paint. And since the paint is very thin and there's thinner down on the surface, it's going to start to disperse. You can see it happening already. And I got a little bit down here, and that's not a big deal. We'll just go ahead and stipple this. It'll help to add to the effect when we start working down here. So not a big deal. And again, if you want it all the way gone, you can just wipe it off like that. There we go. Yeah, not worried about that little bit right there. But now I'm going to take my stipple brush and I'm just going to kind of work this in. You don't need to be perfect with this. Actually, leaving some areas a little darker than others is going to help to add to that effect. There we go. Go ahead and clean that spot up there. Now I'll come in with the hair dryer. I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up or not, but Now we have tonal variations that look random all in the paint here. Alright, now I'm going to move up to a little bit darker color. This is going to be a neutral gray. And I think what I'll do is I might take a little bit of that light gray and mix it in there. Yeah, it's just so it's a little bit darker till. There we go. Alright, now this time I'm not going to add any thinner down, but what I want to do is on the either the bottom or the top. The bottom of this plate and the top of this plate right in this area right here. I just want to run a little bit of darker gray right in here. Just kind of highlight this recessed area. Maybe bring it down a little bit like that. And then we'll stipple this in. Kind of unload the brush a little bit periodically. There we go. Feather it out a little bit. There we go. Also, you want to keep in mind that in this scale, I've found that it's a little bit misleading because, yes, the model is quite large in size. However, the effects that you add to it can easily be overdone. So, like, just to give you a little perspective, these are the figures that are going on the ship. So you can see how this area is the size of a grown man. So when you're putting in these giant streaks later on, it's easy to get kind of maybe carried away with it or overdo it. Alright, that's looking pretty good. I like that so far. I'm just going to take my brush and just want to feather this in just a little bit where I got it on top a little bit. Alright, cool. All right, I'm going to add a little bit right down here on the bottom part of this panel. There you go. You know, I'm not being consistent on purpose. I want to leave it a little bit random, thicker in others and thinner in between. There we go. It's just barely touching the surface. Clean it up, just kind of feather it in, just a little like that. Alright. I'm going to dry that. Alright, I think that's starting to look pretty good. Again, do a little bit more feathering, and you can just touch this up as you go along. Alright, so next, I'm going to do some of the weathering now. So what I'm going to do is, again, take a look at the reference photos. In this area in particular right here, as the ship moves through the water, it's coming up the side, it's splashing up, and gets a lot of sea spray right here. So I'm going to go back to my white color first. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and again give my surface a coat of thinner so the paint moves freely. So now back to my faded white. I got kind of a thinned down, runny application here. And I'm just going to kind of run my brush right along here. And it's going to get a little thicker than others. I'm going to maybe not have it as heavy of a coat here toward the very front. But back here, where there's a lot of sea spray, yeah, I want to increase that. There we go. So a little heavier on this end, a little lighter on that end. I'm going to take my stipple brush, and I'm just going to barely just move it down the contour of the ship like this. Actually, I'm going to get a little bit thinner on there. Getting a little bit stuck. There we go. Now it's moving. And as I do this, I just kind of want to follow the natural gravitational pull of that salt water running down the side and then drying and depositing. I'm only coming down to the waterline. I'm not bringing it down into our below the waterline part. We'll handle that separately. And I know on camera right now you can't really see these streaks taking place, and honestly I can't really see what they look like right now either. In areas like right here where I'm at now, where it's a little heavier, I can see it. But like on this little last bit here, I'm going to run that down, and I'm not going to go over directly on top of it. I'm just going to go right up next to it on both sides. And I'm just going to kind of guide that paint down into the direction and the shape that I want that to look like. There we go. So now it doesn't look like we did anything. Let's dry it off and take a look. So now I'm going to take some sepia, and right along where the degaussing cable is, there's these attach points. I'm just going to pick out 2 or 3 of them, and then with my flat dry brush, just want to go straight down like this to create that streak. There you go. This is to simulate some dirt, grime, or whatever that's kind of collected on that attach point, and then has since started to wash away and run down the side. So now with my pointed blender brush, come in here and just get a little bit more fine-tuned on this. There we go. And again, I'm just going right up along the side of that streak to feather it out and bring it down. Not really directly on top of it. I'm going to go on top of this one a little bit just to thin it down a little bit so it doesn't look exactly like this one. If you like the way it looks, then just go next to it, right up to the edge. There we go. There. Alright guys, so at this point I didn't feel like talking anymore, so I'm going to voice over this part. What you see here is me working on the lower part of the hull, below the water. So what I'm doing is the same technique as I did before on the upper half. I'm putting down some thinner to wet the surface, applying the paint, stippling it out as you see here. And then once it's stippled out, I switch to the other blender brush that's a little bit more pointed, and I smooth it out. This is going to represent some of the biofouling that happens on the bottom of the ships, the marine life that adheres or sticks to the bottom of the hull and makes it kind of slimy looking. Then I'm just going to repeat that on the lower part of the hull here, applying the thinner, and then applying the paint. Go a little bit heavier with the paint on the underside here, just to help keep it a little bit random. And as you can see, that paint is very, very thin on top of the thinner that's on the surface, so it's spreading out already. Yeah, and all I'm doing here is just working that paint, spreading it around. It doesn't have to be precise. Again, this is just to represent the organic material that's on the surface. And now I don't know why I didn't film finishing out that first section there on the bow, but here I am. I'm working on the next section after that. I've already done the upper part, and so now I'm adding in some darker colors here on top of that lighter color. I believe this is a sepia that I'm using, but I applied it along the panel line and also did some speckling just to keep the color pattern random. And I'm also, if you notice, I'm working that paint into the previous section that I had already done, just to help blend these two sections together so it doesn't look like that they were done individually. And once that part is done, I'll dry it off with the hair dryer, and then just repeat that process on the lower part of the hull. Again, adding the thinner, applying the paint along the panel line where I want to have a heavier concentration of that color, and then speckling over that to create some more random color distribution. And that's it. That's the process of weathering this ship up. And it looks like we're over 28 minutes into this video, and looks like I've barely done anything. So this is not a fast process. I do really enjoy the results of OPR. I think it adds to the realistic look of the model. So I'm gonna continue this process in small sections, working from light colors to dark colors until I finish this side of the hull. So what I'll do is in the next few clips, I'll just keep these sped up so you can watch the process kind of take place in a little bit quicker pace.